everyone. I'm Joanne Britton, and I'm very happy to welcome you to the bucket course this morning for our last class about mental health. But before I turn it over to JR, I want to remind you please to turn on your tea coil and turn off and put away your cell phones if you would be so kind. And now let's give a warm welcome to Dr. JR Paulson.
Great, thank you. How's the sound in the back, Dave? Okay? Good. Feel kind of like an attorney. I don't know what that would feel like, but giving his closing arguments to the jury, so to speak. I'm trying to preface this for 3 weeks. I'm giving you my prejudices, which are personal, about the mental health system and models, and now I really have to give you the final convincing data and put it all together. So we'll talk about a different paradigm that I've come up and I've used for a long time. I want to talk about the social context of mental health, and at the very last, a little bit about the JPK fund or what we're doing locally. And so we're going to get going. Remember our early model? We had psychotic people and then normal people. Remember that? And then the Fordian model said, well, some of those people that are normal, they're normal, but they're kind of neurotic also, right? And then what's neurotic and normal, that boundary is pretty fuzzy, because we're all a little screwy, correct? So what does my new model look like? Basically, it looks kind of the same, doesn't it? Psychotic, these are people that are like the people where we talked about, chronic schizophrenic, people that are maybe have to be institutionalized, they have a chronic disease, whatever. And then there's some moderately severe, whatever that is, the color, and there's no clear degradation. And then there's the rest of us, supposedly normal. So, what is the new paradigm? I'll try to go over different books that I found useful in this class. One of them is Creating Mental Illness by sociologist Alan Horowitz. Okay, so I'm going to give you 12 points right now. I apologize, I wanted to get these printed out, but I will get them, and people could have later if they wanted to. So you said, well, what was Paulson's class about? Oh, he talked about 12 things. 1, people who are distressed because of stressful social conditions are reacting normally. They do not have mental disorders. 2, people develop symptoms that are congruent with the dominant cultural model, disease categories, and medical fashion of the time. I hope you understood that from the first couple classes. 3, there's a valid realm of mental disorders, but culture, not nature, influences how most disorders become real, both to the people who suffer from them and to those who treat them. 4, the same broad underlying tendency to disorder can take very different forms, not only in different socio-cultural settings, but also within the same culture among men and women, blacks and whites, old and young, or immigrants and natives. So the same underlying disorder we have can manifest based in those different categories. The single most common precipitant for entry into mental health treatment is problems with social relationships. 6, symptoms such as depression, anxiety, and psychophysiologic symptoms are non-specific indicators of a common broad underlying vulnerability rather than indications of specific diseases. 7, many physical symptoms or complaints are really manifestations of underlying psychological stress or distress. Those of us who do family practice realize that all in spades. People come in with their headaches and their belly aches and their back pain, and if we drill down, it's really due to something else that's going on that's just manifesting itself that way. 8, risk factors for mental illness include a family history of any psychiatric disorder, early childhood trauma, a troubled life situation at the time the disorder appears, gender, and weak or absent social support systems. 9, the DSM paradigm, although it may be reliable, lacks validity across both temporal and cultural landscapes for many of its diagnoses. Its mandate and usefulness for treatment is extremely myopic and non-productive in most patients. 10, correcting a culture embodying domination/subordination, racism, sexism, and economic inequality is clearly the most important and fruitful way to treat, ameliorate, and prevent mental illness. 11, it's very difficult to heal alone. Although it sometimes can be done, we often need the perspective and help of others to truly overcome our own dis-ease. Now, 12, I've got this weird teleologic pragmatic theory of medicine. Any symptom, whether physical or mental, is nature's way of making us aware of an imbalance or problem, either within ourselves, how we see ourselves, or with our environment, how we see others or the world, or sometimes refusing to really see it as it really is. Symptoms, especially psychiatric, are telling us that something is not right. And the body will often continue to produce them until they are addressed or corrected. Just treating symptoms, as is our current paradigm, is often not only wrong, but can actually exacerbate the problem. So, what does this holistic paradigm model look like, and how does it work? I've used this model for many years. In practice, after about 7 or 8 years, I realized that people kept coming back or were sent back from specialists, and they weren't getting completely well, particularly chronic problems. But they came back in our labs. Why weren't they getting well? And I finally figured out because I was using a Western limited model of disease and illness. And until I started getting outside of that model, I couldn't explain or understand this. So then a number of years later, I decided that things I learned both in medical school and with my philosophy background, that this model may be a good one, and I've used it ever since. So I look at the individual patient through 4 lenses, like I have different lenses to put over my eyes to create a composite assessment for that person. At that time, specifically for them, often diagnosing multiple interacting etiologies. Not usually simple one cause. This model can be used for various psychiatric conditions. We use depression as an example. A different model. It's holistic, multifactorial, and directly seeks to find and evaluate the causes and precipitating factors of mental distress. Secondly, it then looks at the relationships between the triad, which we introduced you to earlier, the patient, the disease, and the doctor. That's very, very important. In most cases, just getting rid or ameliorating the symptoms does not treat or get at the underlying problem. Rock and shoe analogy. People come in, I got pain in my foot, doc. Got pain in my foot. Give me some pain medicine. I got pain in my foot. Well, okay, here's some Vicodin. Yeah, you know. Well, gee, let's take your shoe off. Let's examine your foot. Oh, there's a rock in your shoe. Oh, I think we've cured your problem. Usually, if you don't do that, the problem will come back in a different and uglier form. So if you just treat the symptoms of something, oh, I've got bad belly pain. If it's serious, oh, we'll just cover it up. Bad things could happen. Then I also look for strategies to prevent relapse, attempting to create resiliency in all spheres. So, the first lens I look at, blue lens, biochemical. Yes, I do look through this current model of neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. I recognize that how we feel, our energy, and even our thought processes are affected by our brain chemistry. And if this is off, we may not function at our best. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's very true, and I believe that. I'm aware of the role of the adrenal hypothalamic pituitary axis and its interaction with many neurochemical processes. That means when you're under chronic stress for any reason, that screws up your hormone systems, and that screws up your brain chemistry. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Stars. Ooh, good point. Remember, however, I'm acutely aware that we do not have even a basic understanding of how it all interacts and works. I don't care who tells you what. That's what I believe. Many people do need medications or drugs to heal and function better. Chemical imbalance theory. The only evidence we have that supports the serotonin hypothesis is the claimed curative effects of SSRIs. But there's not a single peer-reviewed article that can be accurately cited to directly support claims of serotonin deficiency in any mental disorder, while there are many articles that present counter-evidence. That's a nice simplistic, oh, it's all about your serotonin levels. Now we know, oh, it isn't just one serotonin, oh, it's all these different kind of different serotonin receptors, and there's this serotonin and that serotonin, and all these places, and they hook on the cell. They get pretty complicated. If a scientific model is valid, it also should predict corresponding specific treatments with specific medications. The psychotropics for psychotic illnesses, tricyclic antidepressants for major endogenous depression, and lithium for bipolar illnesses all have a long-term proven record. Ever since drugs came out, we know those work in those people. Whether you're in the United States, whether you're in China, whether you're in the Amazon jungle, the medicines work for those diseases. But just for those diseases. So you give lithium to somebody that's depressed, and they don't die, depression doesn't necessarily work. Thorazine was one of the first ones, antipsychotic. It works. It helps the hallucinations. What about snake oils? Gee, rheumatism, neuralgia, animal bites. So you can't read this, but Uncle Benjo's Bell tongue syrup, what I want you to see is that it's used for stomach, bowel, kidney diseases, scrofula, worms, fever, cough, cold, rheumatism, asthma. Kind of like everything, isn't it? Well, what do you think that snake oil is going to be? It's not snake oil, but are you going to buy that? It's going to fix all those things? But what about Prozac? The first SSRI was first approved by the FDA for depression. But how does the model explain how drugs that reduce serotonin levels work just as well as Prozac, which raises it? Well, wait a minute. Something's not right. Then, how can one drug, one disease theory, like we just told you, explain why the FDA has approved, the drug companies promoted, and physicians prescribe Prozac for, also works on your generalized anxiety disorder. Premenstrual syndrome or dysphoria. You got bulimia. Obsessive compulsive disorder, panic attacks, anorexia, premature ejaculation, alcohol abuse, diabetic neuropathy, and bipolar depression. What does that sound like? Wait a minute. Prozac does everything. Man, it's a tonic. Let's put it in the water. So, wherever age you at, we got some medicine for you. Whatever you need. Big Pharma's mantra. You have a symptom, you have an illness, you have an ICD code, we have a drug. Gee, you're not getting a full night's sleep with Ambien. You're already on a drug for sleep. Well, let's change to Lunesta. We got another drug. I'm sleeping. Everybody's supposed to go to sleep, go to bed, hit the pillow, and be out like a light till the next morning. Right? Maybe not. Some people need it. Yes. When you don't sleep enough, you're a basket case. But the majority that everybody's a little trouble with sleep needs is ridiculous. What ask your doctor about all those TV commercials. That doesn't work. Yeah, it does. This Journal Watch article said, when the patient asks the doctors, they're 5 times more likely to prescribe that drug. They don't say that for no reason. And we doctors say, we're not that stupid, patient. Sorry. Antidepressant use in persons greater than 12 years. Look at the trend since 1999. That's kind of scary to me. Look at that, going up. Add these two together, men and women, almost a quarter of the population is on antidepressants. Does a quarter of our population really need to be on antidepressants? Nisha would like that. Did you make that, Nisha? get this one? Calvin and Hobbes. Gee, after Calvin's meds kicked in, things just didn't seem the same. Some of these meds do have some side effects. Everybody wants a pill. I heard the other day that the pharmaceutical companies have submitted 3 new weight loss drugs to the FDA. Everyone wants a quick fix. I'm a diabetic, overweight, depressed, have high blood pressure, but I don't want to change my diet and exercise. Can't you just give me a pill, doc? What about happiness? We're going to spend the last part of this class on happiness, but seems to be pretty prevalent in the United States. Okay, what are other ways? I just said I believe in biochemistry, but there are other ways to affect the chemicals in your brain. Non-pharmaceutical ways. Exercise. It's been proven over and over again to work. Protects against relapse and works synergistically with other treatments. This is a major depression. Why not add it in or in place of? ECT, electroshock therapy. It's not like it was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's. Often where other treatments have failed, it works very well. It's now safe, and it gets a more rapid response. Transcranial magnetic therapy, TCM. Not just a little bag that you buy over the internet, but regular treatments where you go weekly. There's a place in Des Moines. I have one of my patients that couldn't get well in depression for other ways with her medicine. We did this, and it made a huge difference in her life. Music therapy has been shown to be effective by itself, as well as an adjunct. And we're happy to report we have a full-time music therapist joining us in Grinnell in a few months. Pet therapy. Pet therapy can, yes, have a powerful healing role. We found this with post-traumatic stress vets coming back. When they have dogs and bond with the dog, they can do incredible things that they could not do before. Not medicine, dogs. Nature therapy, forest therapy, I mentioned this before. People in, let's say, in Japan, doctor sees you depressed, you go get forest therapy next 3 weekend. You take the train out of Tokyo, you go, you hike around in woods for 3 hours, you come back. And you do that 4 weekends. Then you come back to the doctor, do you feel better? I feel a lot better. Out of the city, you're reconnecting with nature. So there are other ways to affect your biochemical besides or in addition to, and you can use a combination of above. Okay, now you look at the red social sphere. Family, spouse and marriage, job, friends, organization and clubs, sports, degrees of freedom. What are these relationships like? Well, I tell people, if you got a crappy job that you hate, or you got a crappy marriage that you hate, all the Prozac in the world isn't going to fix that, is it? You got some social issues. That's what's causing your biochemical problems and stress. So fix your social problems. What about psychiatric? Now I'm flipping the purple lens on. Here, thoughts. What themes dominate? What are the worries and anxieties? What do you think about at 3 a.m. when you wake up? What are the recurrent tapes that you can't control and keep playing in your head? What are your dreams? Are they negative or recurring? This is all the shoulds that were implanted, usually during childhood. It's your superego, Freud, and unconscious defense mechanisms. Post-traumatic stress disorders. How do they view themselves? The ego. Do they live mentally in the past, present, or the future? So these are all things that try to chink through. These mechanisms, defense mechanisms are pretty neat. Most people don't know they're doing all this stuff. So you have a person that really gets gays, he's homophobic. Well, what do you think? They do your little Freud analysis. He's really out on gays because he's insecure about his own maleness and his own sexual role. But he uses projection out there. So a lot of things when people act or behave, they're not aware of these things going on. Other psych questions. Do they see themselves as victims? Are they basically optimistic or pessimistic? How much control do they feel they have over their life? Do they blame others for their unhappiness? And I found this a lot, unresolved grief that nobody tells me about that I have to dig for if I don't find anything else. So the psychiatric overlaps with the biochemical and social. And they interact and affect each other. So, okay, nothing real unique about that, I found this slide about, biophysical social framework, all the things we talked about. But I add another one in with my philosophy background, existential. What's that mean? The lens of meaning. So what is the meaning of your life? What will be your legacy? What's your relationship to a higher power, or do you believe in one? Are you a member of a religious community? And if so, how important is it to you? Are you spiritual? What are your values? What's the doctor asking me about my values? I came in for something different. I want a drug. It's important to assess the role of religion in the patient's life and their degree of participation in it. What church do they attend and how often? To what degree do they feel that participation is meaningful? How strong is their faith community? Are they theist or atheist? What does God mean to them? If atheist, are they spiritual and to what degree? If atheist. If a hospice patient, what do they feel will happen to them after they die? These are kind of important questions. Didn't teach you this stuff in medical school. If female, what is their religious view of the role of women? Well, if you want to explore that a little more, I highly suggest this book, Infidel, a Somalian woman growing up in a very strict Muslim tradition, and it will really give you perspectives to think about. National Geographic, Healing Power of Faith. And this book, Healing Power of Faith, Harold Koenig. I invited him here. Time flies when you're getting more mature. 15 or 20 years ago, organized the Rosenfield Symposium with Wayne Moyer, and we invited Harold to come and talk about healing power of faith in an integrated medicine conference we had at the college. So he's at Duke. He's head of the Center for Religious Studies. So this is hard science, folks. People think this is all touchy stuff. The deeper a person's religious faith, the less likely he or she is to be crippled by depression during and after hospitalization for physical illness. People with a strong religious faith are less likely to suffer depression from stressful life events, and if they do, they're more likely to recover from depression than those who are less religious. People with a strong faith who suffer from physical illnesses, they have a broken hip, have significantly better health outcomes than the less religious. Religious people live longer, both physically and healthier into later life, and live longer than their non-religious counterparts. People who attend church regularly are hospitalized much less often than people who never rarely participate in religious services. So this book is about hard scientific evidence. Well, what's going on? Religion can have an exceedingly positive or negative effect on both the psyche and the social sphere. So just like we said, the social can have a big effect on your biology, religion can have strong positive or negative social effects on your social or on your psychological. Remember from the previous class on why can't we all get along, politics and religion? I showed that it's not the dogma or the beliefs that have the powerful, enchanting, brainwashing effect of loss of reason. You know, why could these people that are smart professors believe this dinosaurs walk with people crap? They're supposed to be smart. Try to explain to you, no, there's part of the brain that shuts off once you get into this tribal type thing. But powerful social experiential experience of a tribal ritual, that's the main power of religion, a fact that's either lost or unknown to those who bash it. So people say, oh, it's all about the dogma. How could people believe that crap? No, you're missing the point of my other class in this. It's that social bond together, worshiping together, the structured community, the whole thing that is therapeutic. And when they do the studies, it's not what religion. You can be Jewish, you can be Buddhist, and they've done studies on this. You know, is it you have the right religion? Is it the Christian religion? Or is it... No, it's the religion thing and the community getting together that makes people healthy. Not one better than the other. Does it affect the biology? Of course. How could you not go to a Christmas Mass at St. Peter's and not be moved? Even if you're not Christian. The music, the people, it's just the art, it's just, yeah. Or, if you're Muslim, you pray to Mecca every 5 times Well, Mecca, Kaaba stone, or Kaaba is there, and so when you do your pilgrimage, you walk around there. How can that not get you pumped up? For your other human beings that are all there making the pilgrimage. Okay, however, before I plan a treatment, I have to assess this triad: the doctor, the patient, the disease. Now, how does the patient see the doctor? Does he trust the doctor? You know, that guy's a quack. How does the doctor see the patient? Are they just a whiner or a complainer? And this, trust me, this goes on in the back of our heads, and yours. How does the doctor view the disease? Somebody comes in with fibromyalgia or chronic pain, how does the doctor see that? Fibromyalgia is a new disease. It's like hysteria was back then. I don't have any men come in with fibromyalgia. Isn't that interesting? Fibromyalgia, everybody should be getting. No. It's a disease that's come. People have bought into it, and it's like we talked about other diseases. The social, the medical model, whatever. Does anybody know what causes fibromyalgia? No way. Does it have all these symptoms? Yeah. How does the patient view the disease? Very important. And it's the doctor's goal to cure or to heal. And what are the patient's goals? Remember the placebo effect from my last class? Why was it so emphasized? Why did I spend an hour giving you all these examples of fake knee surgery and fake heart surgery and this drug and that drug? Because it's important. Real healing often comes not from what we do to patients, whether it be drugs or surgery, but how the patients perceive their therapy. That is the powerful healing that goes on. Why is it important? Okay, I love this slide. Okay, so these are people who got depression. And you got these patients, if you came in and said, no, doctor's going to see you today, gee, I sure hope he gives me some drugs. Somebody else comes in and says, man, I don't want to take any drugs, I don't like drugs, no, I want to have, I hope I get therapy. So you take them, and gee, guess what happens? Depression scores, if you want meds, 45% get well. If you don't want meds, only 7.7% get well. Isn't that interesting? If, I want meds, but they gave me therapy, 22%, but down here, double that, get well. What's going on here? Well, the graph shows it. I'm a pictorial person. So, you prefer medication, you get well. We don't give you medication, this is how you do. We give you both together. Oh, it'll be a lot better. Doesn't make a difference. You're wasting your time sending these people to therapy. They don't need it, they're not going to benefit. Likewise, these people. Gee, they psychotherapy, 50% of them get better. Notice nobody 100% on any of these, but gee, 50% get better. But give them medicine, they come back, doc, that stuff didn't work. What's going on here? Isn't depression supposed to be hardwired biological illness? Shouldn't the medicine have more profound effect regardless of whether the patient wants it or not? If I give you an antibiotic for strep, trust me, you don't have this. But in depression, psychological things, it really depends on what you are going on up here. Now, other problem, insurers are becoming less likely to pay for therapy, while they spend more and more money on antidepressant medications. So the healthcare system, oh, we're just going to pay for drugs, we're going to pay for therapy. Well, what about all those people that are going to do better with the therapy? You should be paying for them. How does a patient see their disease? Why do some patients with some chronic diseases never get better? Do they need their disease? Do they feel and assume the victim role? Does calling the condition a disease absolve them of any personal or moral responsibility? Something to think about. Oh, I've just got this disease. I inherited it, I got it. Not thinking about it. Fix me. How does the patient see their doctor? Do they want the doctor to cure them? Or do they want genuine healing? Do they feel and assume that the victim role and see the doctor or therapist as a powerful father figure or a rescuer? Yeah, doctor, he's going to save me. He's going to do all this stuff for me. Do they feel any personal responsibility to change their ways? Have they doctor shopped around? Beware if they flatter you and say that you're the only one that can help them. That's the kiss of death. So what's going on here in the back-page ratio? Now, are we ready to suggest treatment on a holistic model? So biologic, if it looks like they may benefit or have in the past, and they want a prescription or medication, consider it. You probably give it to them. But also prescribe exercise and the other modalities if appropriate. Sometimes I have to have people go on a media vacation. I'm serious about that. They turn on TV or the news and see all the crap that's going on out there. Of course it's going to make them depressed. So you're fighting the wind when you got that. I mean, they turn that on and go, oh man, no. That's part of their treatment. Use blackout. Sociologic. Make directive suggestions. They say, well, what do you think, Doc? I'll tell them what I think. And sometimes they need a counselor. But sometimes, as we know, nah, your marriage is on the rocks. You need to, don't waste your time. Go get a good lawyer, divorce lawyer. If the problem is a rotten, screwed up spouse that ain't going to get better or doesn't want to get better. Don't waste time with that. And this one I do a lot. Do something for someone worse off than you are. I put a star by that. At the end of today, we're going to might circle back to that. Psychiatric, RX therapy, if the patient feels appropriate. And get rid of the stupid update thing. So, they may need some Prozac or another medicine. Yes, I'm bipolar. I take a pill to stop the extreme highs. I take a pill to stop the extreme lows. I take a pill to sleep. I take a pill for anxiety. I hate taking pills, but I'm stable. That person needs their medicine. So don't be saying, oh, you don't need that, or let's do the other stuff. Some people do need their meds. They're down at this end of the spectrum, but don't mess around with that. Now, I've done this on 3 patients lately. It's a genetic evaluation. I send in some of their scraping off their inside of their mouth, and it tells me all these different genes, and it tells me about all these genotypes they've got, and how they metabolize different drugs. So now, gee, I find out, oh, if I give them this antidepressant, it's not likely to work because they don't have the gene that's going to metabolize that. Or, if they give them this drug, they may have side effects. Or this one, so that's kind of sneaky. That's helpful if you're using medication. And it's promising and it may be helpful some, but it's not going to be just automatically get that and then you're all set. But it was helpful. What about psychotherapy? Is it effective? Are some types of psychotherapy more effective than others? Are professionals better therapists than others? Well, the answer to the first question, yes. 2 notable findings. People with severe depression do better with medication. You're seriously suicidal, you're vegetative, you better get on some meds. For moderate depression, the combination does better than either alone. And for mild, especially situational problems, which is most, psychological and social support, but not meds are really needed. But if you follow our DSM book, you got the symptoms, you got your patient. Therefore, so facto you get medicine. Are some types of psychotherapies more effective than others? Hate to say it to the psychotherapists in the back room, not really. Are professionals better therapists than others? So, who should do therapy? Psychiatrists? Freud himself said, you don't have to be an MD psychotherapist to do what I'm doing, psychotherapy. He thought that doctors were just trying to hone in on the market. Your doctor? Maybe if he knows you for 30 or 40 years, he might be a good therapist. You haven't seen this person forever, probably not. Psychologist? Yeah, they got a degree, PhD, after me, that doesn't. Social worker? They can do a good job. Other mental health counselors? Ministerial counseling? They can do a good job. A good friend? That can do a good job. Your women's clubber group? You're sitting in it and you're doing psychotherapy on one another. Not been at it, but I assume that it takes place. Your spouse, caveat, not usually. There's usually too many issues with the spouse. They're not objective. Your next door neighbor, Could be your best psychotherapist, and they don't charge. So, it's really not a huge difference if you get therapy. Meaningful and lasting change occurs only when the therapist and client both buy into the same model, share similar cultural framework, and each has trust and confidence in the other to meet shared goals. It is the human, social, encouraging, and empathetic response from the therapist that is responsible for most of the healing. Psychoanalysis, designed to get deep down into these repressed feelings and thoughts. Cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, there's a whole bunch of these different kinds. So the different people trained in these different areas. One of them, rational emotive therapy. Simple, called ABC therapy. You got a triggering event, but then you have this belief, and that belief is really important how you look at this event. And you can look at it this way, or if you've got a bad belief about it, unhealthily, but that's got consequences and emotional responses. So you got to change your beliefs. And if you change your beliefs, gee, things are a lot better. Another form of cognitive therapy. What we think affects how we act and feel. Duh, well, little tapes are playing around in there all the time. Yeah, that'll affect how you feel about stuff, and also what actions you're having. However, we usually do need someone else to help us because we're not aware of all of our psychic thoughts or feelings. Freud was right. We often use defense mechanisms for which we're not aware. We operate under the assumption that we are rational and others are not rational. In our class I did on the truth, we went through that. And we keep getting tripped up on those dang cognitive biases. Remember one of my classes we talked about all these brain booby traps that you have? And Dr. Ferguson and I love this one, the confirmation bias. That's our favorite one. That's where we just filter out any stuff that just what we want to believe. We just that stuff come on in the door, and the other stuff that doesn't go along with what we say. Forget it. Very human. Mindfulness work is emerging as a powerful tool which patients can use on their own to greatly improve their mental health. They use this a lot now. So, is your mind full, or are you mindful? That's a good cartoon. I love that. That says it all. Are you seeing what's there? You see the nice trees there. Nah, you worry about all this other crap that's going on in your brain. So I wonder why you're a little manic. Mindfulness is simply being aware of what's happening right now without wishing it was different. It's crappy weather. Enjoy that ice and snow. That's tough to do. I can't say that. But enjoy the pleasant without holding on when it changes, which it will. The weather will change. Being with the unpleasant without feeling it will always be this way. The sun will come out, folks. It will change. So it's acceptance, awareness, and also being in the present moment. There's abundant evidence for the effects of mindfulness. It changes brain waves. It changes the biochemistry in the brain. That's very cool. Without medications. And it can actually cause structural changes in the brain that we can see on MRIs and CAT scans. That's unbelievable. Most doctors don't know that, or most people. It changes physiologically. Yes, we understand that. But no, we can change anatomically your brain. So certain parts are bigger than smaller. I don't have to go into detail of that. Existential work. What about horrific trauma? When depression is chronic, midlife crisis, hospice at the end of life, value clarification. When life has no meaning, existential is really important. Viktor Frankl posits that all three of our most important serious and severe mental conditions are rooted in a loss of meaning. Suicide, the ultimate loss of meaning. Aggression, and addiction. Many studies, 90% of alcoholics suffer from an abysmal feeling of meaninglessness. So you're just going to treat them with some drugs, keep them off their alcohol, if you don't address meaningless in their life. The study of drug addicts studied by Krippner, 100% believe that things seem meaningless. So if you're not working on this part, you're going to be missing things. So only after analyzing all the above does the most appropriate plan for therapy emerge. Now, let's return to, let's see, it's just about time for break. So, perfect time. Then we're going to talk about our culture. We're going to talk about iPhones briefly and the technological changes that they're causing with us. And then we'll move on to a bigger social sphere and our healthcare sphere. So, perfect time to stop.
Thank you all for taking your seats so promptly, and we will continue with the class.
Thank you. So unless you've been Rip Van Winkle, you can't help but noticing the inundation and dominance of our culture by the explosion of technology, especially the internet and smartphones. Can this be affecting our or our children's mental health? The answer is yes, and probably in a way greater than any of us have imagined. And I'm not just an old curmudgeon on this.
I am.
Yeah, you want to get the light? Yeah, thank you. Okay. Oh, mental health. Yep. There's a generational divide, if you haven't noticed, between the baby boomers, older Generation X, and Z, born after 1995. The new generation, this is the new generation, folks. Get used to it. So marketing this to your grandkids. Home buttons, music apps. That may be a little extreme, but we'll see what I get done here. So what has been the impact of a new technology on the family, our schools, workplace, society in general, and especially on mental health? We were promised unlimited access to information, literally at our fingertips, instant connections to people all over the world in seconds, brings people closer together with social media, Skype and FaceTime, improvements in our education in schools, more efficiency at the office, better medical care through electronic medical records, social empowerment, and that anyone with access to a smartphone or electronic device has access to the web. So it's not just for the people, if you've got a cell phone in the middle of Africa, you're equal to everybody else. Instant buying from our phones. What could be better? But what have been some of the seen and unseen negative consequences of the revolution? More specifically, what's the relevance of this class? So let's talk about in the home. As early as 2010, technology was seen to be changing the actual nature of the family and family relations. Digital and traditional media have literally stolen what has been, we used to call it quality family time, previously filled with talking, discussions, games, family projects, and vacations together when they're not wired or online. American teenagers between 13 and 18 spend an average of about 9 hours consuming internet and the media a day. Average. Children 8 to 12, think about that, 8 to 12, their ages, average 6 hours, excluding the time spent at school, where typically there's more internet and media time in their curriculum. It's ubiquitous, folks, in a lot of places. It's not just the kids. Huffington Post. The average American spends 11 hours per day on digital media. That means looking at a screen. That isn't just TV. That means maybe you're at work, you're in front of a screen, but then you come home and you're on a screen, or noon you're on a screen. That's average. Guess what the leading cause of relationship breakup is? Many more couples are breaking up because of social media. Not because they caught their partner in the bedroom with somebody else, but they discovered emotional infidelity on social media. One prestigious law firm found that 1 in 7 contemplated divorce due to their partners, what they posted on Facebook, Skype, Twitter, Snapchat. Facebook has been found to be the leading cause of divorce, and 4 out of 5 lawyers use social media as evidence in divorce cases. Put a star by that. That's a different world, folks. That's what causes breakups of marriages. In addition, according to Psychology Today, the continuous consumption of electronic media has become the chief source of discord in the family. That's why they're fighting over most of the time. Can't get the kids to turn off the media. But then the parents can't turn theirs off either. There's less family bonding, and children feel less comfort, love, trust, security. When upset, they just go to their rooms and turn to social media and not to their family for comfort. Think about that. Your daughter or somebody's teenager is upset, they're not going to come and talk to you. How are you feeling, dear? Let's talk about it. Media, they go on social media. 58% of young parents use electronic devices to babysit. Trust me, I see them come in the office. Kid's got something, is watching something. Not getting into trouble, I agree, not climbing my doors, but that's not normal and that's not good. Social media takes off among parents after smartphones appeared. So the parents, look at the iPhone release, gee, going way up. This is the different ages. Even 65, less mature citizens. It's going up, and not like it is in the younger folk. 36% of parents feel they argue with their children on a daily basis. Digital drugs. What's going on? Well, gee, when a video game releases dopamine, the same inhaling nicotine triggers the release of dopamine and addiction and coke. It's the same going on in your brain, folks. So the same biochemical process is going on up there when you're hooked on your social media. 72% of teens feel the need to immediately respond to text, social networking messages, and other notifications. Immediately. 70%. Think of that. Bzz, bzz, or you got a message. They got to do it. They can. They can't. I'll wait till the class is over, wherever. This is not good. These kids are supposed to be not doing this. When you get a bunch of teenagers together, they're supposed to be horsing around and doing stuff. Ownership. By the age of the children. This slide just shows you that it starts up here at age 6, 7, goes up. Tablets, all the devices. Has smartphones destroyed the generation? Well, statistical evaluation from this gal that's followed us for many, many years. I'm trying to think if she's out of Michigan. So, here's one going from 1976. So this data goes way back, folks, 76, up to 2015. Just hanging out with friends. I don't know about you, but that's what I used to do back then. And look, what, since the iPhone's released, look what hanging out with friends is doing. You're not physically with your friends. Less sex. Unbelievable. This is good birth control. Teenager, you're supposed to be doing stuff, but since the iPhone is released, it's going down. More likely to feel lonely. Man, look at that curve. You're going like here, bam, iPhone, look at that. That's just, you can't make this stat up, folks. Lonely. What do you think that leads to? Depression, suicide. Teenagers get less than 7 hours of sleep. Gee, sleep's important for kids. Bam. Again, this is the people who are getting less than 7 hours of sleep. So how are they going to function the next day? So it's just another graph to show it's really screwing our kids' sleep up. They're not getting enough. Because they're doing this. Serious. If you don't believe it, find out. What about major depression in kids? Again, this just tells what it is, but look what's happening. All of a sudden, bam, take off, take off. Now, this doesn't say what the cause is, but I'm just trying to give you some data here, and you can put 2 and 2 together. What about schools? Despite billions spent on technology over the past 12 years, educational scores in math, science, and reading have remained about the same. So let's give every kid a computer, and yeah, that's going to make our education tons better. Well, the scores haven't changed much. And actually, compared to kids in countries where they can't all afford to get that, we've actually gone down in those areas. Because those kids are actually reading. They're doing stuff the old-fashioned way. So, unfortunately, technologies meant to inform the kids are being used to browse, shop, chat, eBay, Facebook, YouTube, and Snapchat. College students, the professors in here, getting more and more of a problem. About 1/5 of the class time, they're using laptop, tablets, or smartphones for non-academic reasons. Mainly on social media or to purchase things online. So you're giving a lecture up there and they're back there, Another study found 42% of cell phone use in a typical classroom is used for social media and gaming. So the kids are on their tablet and stuff, but they're playing games. About cyberbullying. They have 3 times the rate of suicide thoughts, according to a JAMA article. Twice as likely to commit suicide. And girls are affected more than boys. It started at an early age, very difficult to stop. Cyberbullying. Parents, only 7% of the parents are worried about cyberbullying, but 33%, a third of teens, have been victims of cyberbullying. So the parents are not aware that this is going on. I had a parent the other day that talked to me that her 11-year-old daughter is being horribly cyberbullied and can't even go in the school cafeteria anymore because of cyberbullying. She says, what do I do? Haven't had that problem before. Can overuse of internet lead to addictions? Yes, it's not in our Bible yet, but it may be coming. And this psychiatrist says, I think it's going to be coming because there's 3 types. Excessive gaming, sexual preoccupations, and emailing and texting. They have all the classic things of withdrawal, excessive use, tolerance, and screwed up other things. Gaming is really a big problem in Korea. They have centers for de-gaming addiction therapy. A lot of their youth get out of it, they're just, that's it, they don't do anything else. What are your kids looking at? That's for the kids. What about the adults? I'm having to deal with sex therapy with couples and people that one of the partners, usually the male, is hooked on sexual things through the internet. What about online sexual predators? That's happening to these kids. The social media taking off among parents after the smartphones. So how many people are getting on social media, Snapchat, Facebook, all that stuff? As the parents, yep, they're doing it too. How much are we using it? A lot. Checking every few minutes, that's this color, every few minutes, or a few times an hour. And look at the ages. The adults are getting hooked on this stuff too. It isn't just the kids, folks. Doesn't the internet give students and the rest of us unlimited access to information? Yeah, but in fact, the internet is the only media that is completely unregulated. Completely, think about it. Radio, news media, on TV, there's some regulations. None on that. Therefore, literally anything fact or fiction can be found. And remember that good old confirmation bias, we look for and find only that which we want to find. So, oh yeah, the kids are going on there. You can find anything you want. It just backs up what you want. The cloud or internet, being a machine, has no moral values. This is a philosopher talking. There's no such thing as right or wrong, good or bad on the web. Their only values are efficiency and selling more stuff to more people to grow the profits of mega corporations. That's why these things are out there. People, when they interact, can and usually do display civility, honesty, trust, integrity, privacy, and genuine empathy. But the internet, by its very nature, cannot display any of these important values. Take a look and see the stuff, how people act or talk on media. They would never do to someone's face.
Yeah.
We are promised that the internet will result in a global village. It's going to bring everybody, link us all together, people all over the world. But instead, it's a global mall. You know, oh, all these things, oh, I can buy this, this. I know what you looked at, I know what you want. Gee, I'll put the shoes up. How do you know that that's the kind of shoes I'm interested in? Well, gee, isn't that interesting? More importantly, skills are learned only by physical proximity, interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, and the reading of body language can only occur face-to-face. Deep emotional responses and the activation of mirror neurons does not and cannot occur screen to screen. We talked about that in one of our other classes. When we see somebody cry, we see somebody do something, it's evolved over millions of years, it creates the same in us. The empathy, whatever. When you got a screen there, it doesn't happen like that. The time students and children do not spend on live interactions because they're online is perhaps one of the big negatives. So if they're on, yeah, but what are they not doing? They're not going outside, they're not playing, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. So what about at work? 71% of office workers abuse the internet. during all hours, visiting social networks, shopping online, or gaming sites. So being an employer, this is a big deal. So gee, they're doing cell phone, texting, gossip. Yeah, you're not going to get rid of that. That's always there. But emails, surfing, oh gee. So the workplace, they figure, they've done studies on this now, about an hour a day, 100% loss in productivity to people that are working on computers or stuff. They're not on there doing all their own stuff. How do you feel when you're dealing with a machine or a computer in a personal or business transaction? Press 1 for blah, blah, press 2 for, press 186 for blah, blah, blah. How does that make you feel? The cumulative effect on us personally and as a society has huge implications for our mental health, the strength and cohesiveness of our culture, our privacy, civility, and even the survival of democracy itself. That's, well, our book club's going to talk about that tonight. Our greatest need at present is for strengthening the bonds that connect all humans together, not only for our personal mental health, but also the preservation of the species. We need to be getting close and together, not farther apart. Digital cyber internet proliferation is directly and indirectly sabotaging this critical need. These signs are out. Watch out. There's people walking and texting. Don't run them over. Heads up, across the street. Then update Facebook. So before I close this topic, consider what you have given up with your Facebook agreement. How many people here are on Facebook? I won't hold it against you to, it's one of your grandkids and stuff, I know. But anyways. Well, did you read the fine print, folks? Did you know that you grant them worldwide license to use any IP contact that you post in connection? And you're allowing everyone, even people off Facebook, not just Facebook people, to access and use that information and associate it with you. In that agreement, you also means, for example, that you permit a business or other entity to pay them to display your name without any compensation to you. And if anyone brings a claim against Facebook related to any of your actions or cyber texting or whatever, nope, they're held harmless against all damages, losses, or expense of any kind. So any bad crap goes on there, or cyberbullying and bullying goes on, and your child kills himself, and you go, well, I'm going to, nope, no responsibility. And I love this one. So I don't think all of you on Facebook, we do not guarantee that Facebook will always be safe, secure, or error-free. And you release us from any claims of damages. So if somebody breaks into Facebook and steals all your personal data information and shares it with anybody, ain't our problem. That's why the CEOs testify to Congress. Totally unregulated. So all of you on Facebook, you signed all that stuff when you did up for it. Now, would you do that for anything else? Give up all your rights and all this happening? I don't think so. So another great book to explore is called Interpersonal Divide in the Age of the Machine. He was a professor up at Iowa State, and he's really, really good. He wrote a book in 2005 about this stuff, and then he wrote one again last year, and what had happened in the last 10 years is unbelievable. He says, people need to reintroduce themselves into their actual, rather than their technological communities. The only community that matters includes a place where social interactions occur between family, friendships, and a common interest. The work of service to the community and the wise management of the resources available to sustain this work. Okay, we're going to hop out in our medical model. We've got the two circles. So far we've talked about the well, anyways, we're going to look at the medical system and the social systems. Finally, let us briefly look at how our current healthcare system, or more accurately, disease care system works, especially in regard to mental illness. We'll then look at countries and cultures where they seem to have gotten it right. How are we doing providing mental health? I like this. This is just from a few weeks ago from the kids. It's easier to get a gun than to get mental health. proportion of adults with behavioral health conditions who receive treatments. We know that people didn't get it if they're underinsured or they have Medicaid. This is a great slide. I know it's 29 through 2011, but it hasn't changed much. Reasons for not getting mental health treatment among women older, unmet needs. Top one was can't afford it. Could handle the problem without it. Don't have time. Insurance didn't cover it. Didn't know where to go. Don't think it'd help anyways. Fear of being committed. Fear of neighbors' negative opinions. State mental health budgets. Gee, what are the states doing with their mental health budgets? Chop, chop, chop. Those are not a few points, folks. That is a lot. And we know where Iowa has been on that, right? So, from 1986 to 2014, how's our dollars spent? Well, gee, this shows us that this was hospitals. Oop, they're down. What's the one thing they got big in here? Prescription drugs. Isn't that amazing? And so all this, the same money we're spending, more of it's going for drugs, not doctors or care or hospitals. What happened in 1950? The deinstitutionalization. We emptied all of our mental places. Where did those folks go? They just disappeared? Don't think so. Where are some of them? A lot of them. On the street. Up to 30% of homeless people are thought to be seriously mentally ill. That's 5 times the rate in the general population. Oh, where did a bunch of the rest of them go? Gee, prison. Inpatient bed capacity for psychiatric patients. Gee, what happened? 50s, we got this many beds peak. Now, that's where we are now. But look at our incarceration rates. Gee, from way back to 1920, we're going here, and then about 50 it starts going up. But boy, look what's happened recently. Unbelievable. Prison and jail. Out of sight. So you don't have to be brilliant to see, gee, mental hospitals went down. Gee, prison went up. Wait, is everybody crazy in prison? So, this is how many people are in jail with serious mental illnesses. And this is how many are in state mental hospitals. Is something wrong with that picture? Numbers and percentages of inmates in state prisons. Any mental problem? 56%. That's more than there for crime. Prisons are the new asylums in the U.S. Let's not call them anything else. Crazy priorities. 10% of homicides are committed by untreated, severely mentally people. Chances of a mass shooting displaying signs of mental illness prior to crime, 2 in 1. So they're not all mentally ill. Gun people, that's not true. Actually, the majority are not. But of the ones that do, they showed signs of mental illness, or half of them, that somebody should have picked up on. What about our vets? This is a nice study they did in California, Alameda Jail, to find out about our veterans. What are they doing? Not well. 75% had substance abuse. Other mental illness, 64%. 17% having attempted suicide. It's another 10%. These are our vets, folks. They're in jail. Incarceration rates compared to other countries. Okay, well, gee, Russia's behind us, but a long ways behind us. Then Ukraine. Okay, let's compare us to United Kingdom and Europe. Now, look, somebody had to extend that chart out there. We couldn't get it all on there. Look at that difference. This is per 100,000. Ridiculous. So, where are they locked up in the United States? Where? This is where state prisons, local jails, federal prisons. There's a difference between jail and prison, obviously. I don't have time to spend it, but these are people, when they're in there, they don't have a lot of these amenities like exercise, stuff like that. And no detainees picked up on suspicion of committing a crime. Oh, your case isn't going to come up for 3 or 4 months, but we're putting you in jail until it does. How's that going to make you feel? Geez, I got stars all over this place. Why? First point, 48% of the inmates in the prisons are serving time for drug offenses. 48%, that's why they're in there, because they use drugs. Only 8% were incarcerated for violent crimes. Those are the people we don't want to run in the street. But 48% for drug abuse. And gee, over here, the cost for the conservative, ultra people saying, well, that's what we got to do with them. I'm financially conservative. You go, wait a minute. It's costing $26,000 to keep them in prison, but if I put them in a drug rehab place, it's only about half that cost, $15,000. So I'm going to save half the money getting all these drug people out of jail and putting them in a rehab place. But of course, we don't have a rehab place. So when people try to give this financial argument, they don't know their facts. This is a result of failed policy. The war on drugs, increasing arrests. America has the longest first-time drug offense sentence, 5 to 10 years. You picked up using a drug, 5 to 10 years, you're locked up in the slammer. It's ridiculous. And it doesn't deter crime. Recidivism rates are astonishingly high. 79% of people that we throw in the prisons are the slammers. Okay, you're done, we let them out. 79%, 80% come back. That's horrible. And the great preponderance of lower class blacks are incarcerated versus middle to upper class whites. So when you look in the prisons, and I'm black, the black guy's in there for 10 years for his cocaine, but your Wall Street lawyer who's taking his cocaine or gets caught, he isn't in jail, and he ain't going to be. Gee, hey, do something about all those bad guys on the border. Gee, is this Trump talking to the Mexican president? Well, we got supply, but you guys got the demand. So, time to end the war. Oh, wait a minute. There's people making money. Follow the money. People are making money off this. It isn't just the cartels. And the prisons. Who runs the prisons now, by the way? Private. More and more. They want to make a profit on their prisoners. How do you do that? Do less and less. They sign contracts. Sometimes it says, we have to have an 80% occupancy rate or we're not going to service your prison. You guarantee it's 80% full or we're not doing it. What does that do? Nice little Bible quote. How do we treat our prisoners? So, for contrast, prisoners in Norway and America. Slight difference. This is United States prison. Classic. This is San Quentin. If you're really bad, that's what you do. That looks like something out of the 1700s. So, let's take Alcatraz versus Halden, Norway. Gee, did you notice any difference in those two pictures of those jail cells? Like, one's got a porta potty in there, one's got a door. I mean, well, yeah. They look at this a little bit differently than we do. This is a room, not a very fancy room, in the jail in Norway. Looks pretty nice. Gee, went in and out the door. This is one of their little day rooms. What do you notice about that? The windows. Look at the light, the air. Do you feel like you're imprisoned in that? Gee, no bars on the windows. This guy is on an island. He is a hardened murderer. He's out there. That's a little spot that he's got there. That's the way they treat. Gee, all the prisons have tons of great libraries. Gee, a little music therapy. You got access to guitars. We're going to try to actually do some therapy with you. This is in one of the kitchens in one of the places. Wait a minute, what's all these knives and stuff hanging out there? They're just up on the wall. You got all these prisoners around there. You said, why would you do that? Because they're safe. No death penalty in Norway, no life sentences, maximum is 21 years, even for murder or rape. Norway has the lowest recidivism rate in the entire world, under 20%. What mental health care reforms are needed to reduce mental illness? Universal health care systems for all. This is my editorial. Pre-cradle, that's prenatal, not just cradle, it's a grave. Equal coverage for physical and mental conditions. Supposedly we have a law that guarantees that. It's bogus, it doesn't work. Insurance companies get around it. Decriminalize drug use. Don't make it a crime to use drugs. Not the pushers or the sellers. Free drug rehab centers and medication. That's voluntary. Total reform of the judicial system that discriminates against minorities with commuting of many of the current sentences. We currently use jails as our asylums. And job training and placement before release. It's done in other countries. Lastly, economic inequality. Inequality in mental health. Gee, the lower you are on the poverty level, the more mental health you're going to have. Oh, what a brilliant thing to figure out. So, it's a big driver in both physical and mental disease. The poor especially are not covered enough with our present healthcare system. And a decent living wage, minimum wage, and universal health care would greatly improve their situation. If you want more about the drug wars, great book, Johan Hari, Chasing the Streams. Can't recommend it too highly. Another book that was put on to me by one of you bucketeers. This is a celebration of a family that was affected by drug abuse. I've just started it, but it's really powerful. It's about this mom, and she follows her son through all these psychiatric hospitals, suicide attempts, incarcerations, homelessness, the whole thing. But the mom in the family is what gets the person through here. So finally, what about the last circle, the social system and its effect on mental illness? If the happiness is at the other end of the spectrum of mental disease, what can we learn from looking at other countries? National Geographic, search for happiness. Gee, Costa Rica, happy place. Why? Because they look at things like financial, social, purpose, physical, and community. They're not the richest country, but they're very, very happy. They have universal health care for everyone. And gee, guess how they divide their national budget pie? First chunk goes for healthcare. Second chunk goes for education. Third chunk goes for natural environment. And then the other stuff will go to roads and everything else. That's how they prioritize their money. Denmark, pretty happy place. Then Danes do well on all these things. Better than the rest of Europe. Belarus is the lowest. Here, these kids in school, they're riding the garden, they're doing stuff, raising the garden, but they're learning to cook it and they're eating it. What does that teach the kids when they're doing this stuff, all this themselves, about their environment and what they're eating? Singapore, happiest place. These guys are on the military. Why are they smiling? Mandatory service. Everybody. So all their ethnic minorities, all got to go in the military for a year, guys. And it creates a sense of solidarity, and they're treated well for their country. So Singapore, and they do well financially. United States, happiest place. Gee, Boulder, Colorado. They seem to have a nice mix of the things that you need. But this is the happiest place around. Know where these guys are from? Bhutan. Where's Bhutan, you say? Well, I didn't know either. I had to look this up. Over by Nepal, north of Bangladesh. Very picturesque country. So, what's cool about them? They don't go, their leaders don't go on gross national product. They go on, gee, gross national happiness. Wow, you make your political decisions on the happiness of the people in your country? Wow, what a concept. And so they look, when they have political decisions, it's what is it going to do for the happiness of our people? And then we'll make the decisions on that. So they're encouraged to think about death also 5 times a day. I thought that was very interesting. So you think about if you do that, you look at things a little differently. But they don't look like they're morbid or worried about it all the time. Very happy. I haven't been there. I'd like to go. Put that on my bucket list. Sounds like a great place to go. Michael Fox thinks this is unbelievable. So, happiness. This slide is absolutely wrong. Depends on your genetics, 50%. I think we've destroyed that hypothesis. Your state of mind, yes, but more your social circumstances. These are places, atlas of happiness around the world, different countries. It's in National Geographic. Good book I can recommend, The Blue Zones of Happiness. So they go around and look, we're the happiest people in the world that live to be over 100 years of age, by the way. And they're still healthy, vigorous, physically and mentally. Where are they? Oh, they're in these places. Gee, Loma Linda, California. Let's go to these places. Find out. They move. They keep active. They have the right outlook. And gee, the right tribe. And they eat wisely. Finally, let's look at our women in Iceland and Cambodia with what we've learned. What things did you come up with any great solutions for them? Well, using my model, are you going to send them some drugs? They just need some Prozac? You're going to send them to a psychiatrist? Don't think so. So, let's talk about the first one. I'm going to spend about 5 minutes of this, and then if you indulge me for 5 more, I'm getting really close. So basically, what these women did, remember the 3 women, they couldn't tell anybody what it was like, all these losses that they've had. So finally, one of them, her brother, committed suicide, and she says, I have it. So she goes to talk to him, I got to talk to you about this, all this pain and stuff I'm feeling inside. Oh, no, we don't talk about it. She found another one of these women and said, oh, this is good for us to talk together about it, share their feelings of loneliness. So one gal went into the clinic in the city and said, gee, they do some talk therapy in there. Wonder we could do that in their village. So they came back and the midwife said, we're going to announce in church this new idea. We'll form a group. Anyone who wants to come and can just come and talk to us about the problems and be confidential. And we're going to do it in my midwife delivery room, but so just come in. Over the next year, every woman in that community came in and talked. Everyone. And then even a few men came in. They prevented many, many suicides to get the women to start talking. That's all they did. And made a tremendous change. Okay, what about our Cambodian gal? Phaile Nguyen. She's got all these catatonic women around her. So first thing she does, she's gone through all this trauma herself. Remember? She lost her daughter raped, kid killed, died from malnutrition, her husband beat up to nothingness. So I'm going to help these women. The first thing she does, spend 3 hours with them. Tell me your story. Then she go back, tell me your story, until they really tell their story. Then she had to have them try to forget, her first thing. Forget this post-traumatic stress. She had them exercise, embroider, music, just do other stuff, weave. Then she said the second thing I had to do was teach them how to work. No matter what. Do dishes, do the fields, do some things. Then she said, I'm going to have them do manicures and pedicures. Why is that good? Because you're touching other people. Just touching their feet and their hands. And if you allow someone else to touch your toenails or your feet, you're starting to bridge bond. Then when they had that done, then she finally has them with the contact with their bodies, then they start talking to other people. And the final step at the end says is getting them out doing things for other people. So what does she do? These women, they get up, and these are the women that she's brought out of this severe, severe post-traumatic depression. Let's set up an orphanage. So the women, let's help these kids that are left without mothers and fathers. That's going to make us feel better. That's going to make us heal. So they do. So half of these women stay there to help these other kids and these other women. So it keeps going on and on. No government funds. She wins the Raymond Magsaysay Prize, which is equivalent to the Nobel Prize, but it's for Asia. So, in summing up, causes of depression don't lie in your skull. They mostly lie in the way we are living today. That points to a very different solutions, one that really work. Hari says, we have been systematically misinformed about what depression and anxiety are. These are the themes of this class. World Health Organization, mental health is produced socially. The presence or absence of mental health is above all a social indicator and therefore requires social as well as individual solutions. Hari, thought this was just marvelous. The impact of political and ideological change in Great Britain. It says, when I was a child, Margaret Thatcher said, quote, there's no such thing as society, only individuals and their families. And all over the world, her viewpoint won. We believed it, even those of us who thought we rejected it. I know this now because I can see that when I become depressed, it didn't even occur to me for 13 years to relate my distress to the world around me. I thought it was all about me and in my head. I had entirely privatized my pain, and so had everyone I knew. You're an animal whose needs are not being met. You need to have a community. You need to have meaningful values, not the junk values you've been pumped full of all your life, telling you happiness comes through money and buying objects. You need to have meaningful work. You need the natural world. You need to feel you are respected. You need a secure future. You need connections to all these things. You need to release any shame you might feel for having been mistreated. So, in the end, it's all about the tribe. Excellent book. The journalist who was embedded in the Bosnian War. Not the selfie. I think this is icon of our time. Leo Tolstoy was once asked, what was the secret to happiness? To paraphrase him, he said something like this, can't recall it, doing something for others and trying to bring them happiness is the best way to find your own happiness. An esteemed and highly revered Russian professor at Grinnell College, John Mohan, is memorialized by a quote of his that would make Tolstoy proud. It's inscribed on the plaque below his memorial tree near Yonker Dorm on the Grinnell campus. It says, we have not only a common origin, but a common fate as well, death. That being the case, why can't we be a little kinder to one another? That says it all. When will we finally realize that the entire human species is just one big tribe? So, Fine, thank you for your time and attention. And one more cartoon. Thank you all.
JR, thank you so much for giving us and being kind to us by doing this course for us. And as a sign of our appreciation, we are donating $50 to the Art Hyman Book Fund in honor of your class.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. And here's something to remember us by.
Thank you very much. I thought it was a free trip to Bhutan.
That's a little beyond what it would have been a good idea.
Thank you all very much.
So thank you all for coming. Remember to turn off your tea coils and to turn on your cell phones. And we'll see you next week. Oh, and if you have filled out an evaluation, please just leave it on the table in the hall. Thank you all for coming. Come back next week. Thank you.